And the relationship now between the state of Israel, you live obviously in Jerusalem and Yerushalayim, the state of Israel and Lithuania, is this a issue of contention, something that the Israeli government has to deal with, or are we beyond that?
To be perfectly honest, I have never been so disappointed with the state of Israel as I am about this issue. Bibi Netanyahu went to Lithuania in 2018 when he was prime minister, and he praised the Lithuanians for the manner in which they are commemorating the Shoah, which is the biggest lie. It's a total lie. And I put out a press release in which I said, I compared that to praising the Ku Klux Klan for improving race relations in the United States. No, I'm very frustrated by this, I have to tell you. Bibi's policy was to try and drive a wedge between the Western European members of the European Union, who are obsessed with the Palestinians, and the Eastern European members who couldn't care less about the Palestinians. And since EU policy is decided unanimously, he thought that he could thwart initiatives against Israel. That was one side of it, and also that these countries have a vote in the EU, they have a vote in the UN, and he refrained from criticizing them, and he made sure that no one else criticized them, I mean, except for me, I think. And I tell you, I am so frustrated by this thing. You have no idea.
Is it possible to have a relationship when the narrative, their narrative, is so counter to the narrative?
Listen, you can have a relationship, but you know these countries are not the United States or Germany, okay? Who are major allies of Israel and whose support is very, very important. These are countries that are emptying out. When Lithuania got independence in 1990, there were 3.5 million Lithuanians. Today, there's 2.3. They're leaving in droves. Latvia, it's less than 2 million people already. It's the same problem. The more a country was involved, or a country's nationals were involved in the actual killing of Jews, the worse the narrative is. It's a very simple equation. There were three models of collaboration with the Nazis, because the Nazis tried to enlist help in every country they occupied, in every country that was allied with them. So you have the Western European model, Belgium, Holland, France, Italy, etc., where the people who helped the Nazis, so they passed laws against the Jews. There was discriminatory legislation. The Jews' lives was made exceedingly harrowing and terrible. And at a certain point, they arrested the Jews and brought them to a train station or to a harbor and sent them somewhere else to be murdered by someone else. Then you have, but those people, let's say the NSB in Holland, the Dutch Nazi collaborators, they weren't the ones who murdered the Jews of Holland. The Jews of Holland who were murdered in Auschwitz and murdered in Sobibor. The French Vichy police were not the ones who murdered the Jews. The French Jews were murdered primarily in Auschwitz. So, although there was one group of French Jews sent to be murdered in Lithuania, ironically. But, and the same is true in Belgium, in Czech Republic, for example, in other countries. So then you have the Central European model, a country like Croatia, which had 40,000 Jews. 20,000 Jews were murdered by the Ustasha, that's the Croatian fascists, the special concentration camps set up to murder Serbs, Jews, and Roma, and Gypsies. And another 10,000 were sent to Auschwitz later on. So it's a mixed model. Hungary, 437,000 Jews deported to Auschwitz, 80% of whom were murdered on arrival. But the Hungarians murdered Jews in Kamenets Podolsk, Jews who had been arrested because they didn't have Hungarian citizenship and were living in Hungary. In Novi Sad, they murdered thousands of Jews, Serbs, and Roma in and around the city of Novi Sad in January of '42. And then when the Nazis installed the Szálasi government, the Arrow Cross, that's the Hungarian fascists, there was open season on Jews, and thousands of Jews were murdered in Budapest. So that's a mixed model. But in countries like Lithuania, almost all the Jews were killed by the Lithuanians. In Latvia, the same. In Estonia. Ukraine is a different story, because many Jews were sent to camps, and the same with Belarus. But many were murdered by Ukrainians or Belarusians.